Now, this is NASA. These are the guys that put folks on the moon, and they're saying never? We didn't really buy that. We didn't buy that at all. Me and a bunch of other folks, I was the second guy on the team, Dr. Brad Edwards won what's called a NIAC grant, NASA Institute for Advanced Concepts Research Grant. And everybody assumed that our project was doomed from the first moment. And we actually showed that theoretically we're a whole lot closer than anybody ever expected. We were so certain that when we issued our final report in 2003, we said 15 years and $15 billion. Now, we're not there yet, okay? That's pretty obvious. So that gets us into the tale of three companies. We first started out under NASA's Institute for Advanced Concepts. The company was called High-Lift Systems, and it was focused exclusively on the Earth elevator. And we learned an awful lot in a short amount of time. The reality is, forget this big asteroid out in space. Forget this, as Clark had it, this carbon monofilament that was a cable 30 feet across. Those are good for fiction, but the reality is that the system is somewhere in the neighborhood of 15 feet wide, paper thin, made of carbon nanotubes, about 100,000 kilometers long, no asteroid needed. It's a man-made counterweight. The longer the string is, the smaller the countermass can be, and if you make the string extraordinarily long, you can have a man-made counterweight. It's kind of a breakthrough, revolutionary concept. So that's kind of where we were in 2003. We were under NASA's umbrella, looking for new funding, looking for another home within NASA, and the Space Shuttle Columbia fell out of the sky. Everything changed at NASA. Over $1 billion worth of projects got cut, money shoveled back towards finding out what happened to their birds, and to start flying again. Well, we were essentially left out in the cold, and we had some decisions to make at that point. They were not easy decisions. I'm 45, I was 35 at the time, and surprisingly, I was in pretty good shape financially. My wealth came from real estate, and I made the conscious decision to fund the project out of my own checkbook. Seemed like a good idea at the time. During 2003 to 2007, we did some amazing stuff. We pioneered carbon nanotubes. At a time when there were probably less than 500 labs in the entire United States making carbon nanotubes, we made carbon nanotubes. In all fairness, we didn't make them very well. We sunk a whole bunch of money into this rabbit hole, and at the end of the day, we were terrible at it. And we had to basically cut that line of research. The reality is that 10 years later, no one else has solved that problem either. We had poured about $300,000 into it. Since then, about a cumulative $10 billion have flown into this problem, and still nobody has a solution. So I'm really glad I cut my losses when I did. But beyond the carbon nanotubes, we got really, really good at robotics. We built high-altitude balloons tethered to the ground with robots climbing back and forth. We went as high as a mile, which, okay, it's a 100,000 kilometer system. We went, slightly less than 2 kilometers. Yeah, okay, all right. So in perspective, it's not that big a deal, but it was really important to understand how to actually climb. While this was going on, NASA was running some competitions. They had some power beaming competitions. Guys who used to work for me with my full blessing went off, created another separate company called Laser Motive. They actually went out and won $900,000 from NASA for power beaming. So fast forward 10 years, they can actually keep a helicopter aloft for 48 hours, a UAV, a drone. They can keep a helicopter aloft for 48 hours powered from the ground with laser. Kind of pretty cool stuff there. So we had a whole bunch of spin-off technologies that was starting to happen. But then in the United States, the real estate markets collapsed. And for me, it was overnight. I went from a pretty healthy positive net worth to a really sucky negative net worth in about 24 hours. My team collapsed. We spread out all over the world. I stayed really, really angry for about 2.5 years. And that was it. That was basically the end of the project. There were people, there were at the time, something north of 800 people around the world working on different aspects of the project. More than 60 different universities. In some places, there's just 1 or 2 guys at a time. Other places had teams of 20 and 30 and 40 people. As soon as I leave Iceland, I'm going out to Amsterdam. Delft Technical University's continued research over the years, so that's really great. We're trying to bring them back into the project. So with LiftPort kind of gone, there was this void. A lot of the students that were working on projects, well, they graduated, and then they went to get real jobs, and then we never heard from them again. So the project was essentially dead. Now, there are some nonprofits still doing some work during this interim. The International Space Elevator Consortium was really the glue that held things together. There's a Japanese Space Elevator Association and the Euro Spaceward Association. Those guys have all done good work in the interim, but there was no central core, and there certainly wasn't anybody crazy enough to build a commercial company to move the thing forward. So it was stagnant. And then something kind of amazing happened. Do y'all remember 2007? There was Friendster, and there was MySpace, and Friendster was on its way out, but MySpace was still a dominant social media platform. Facebook was still restricted within the EDU environment, so it hadn't really started blossoming yet. Fast forward, Twitter. I have one of the first 100,000 Twitter accounts, even though I didn't use it for a very long time. Fast forward to 2012, social media has matured, electronics have matured, computing matured. Ways of communicating with a whole world of people has gotten a whole lot easier. So Kickstarter comes along, and we decide, you know what? I want to build a robot again. Forget this crazy elevator. That's not really the point. I want to build another robot. I'm going to launch a Kickstarter campaign for $8,000 and see what happens. I couldn't possibly have imagined what would happen next. We'll get to that in a second. But in 2012, we were at the Space Elevator Conference. We hold one every year in August. You're all welcome to attend. We're sitting around, 2011. 2011, we're sitting around. We're all kind of drunk. You guys know what that's like. The conference was over, and we were sitting at a really cheesy Mexican restaurant. You know the kind of Mexican restaurant that has like this goofy music in the background, and the tablecloths are made out of paper, the paper cloth stuff, butcher paper. So we're all kind of drinking too many margaritas and too much tequila. And I remember just distinctly pushing back from the table and saying, you know what? What can we build today? What can we build with current technology, with what I refer to as Sputnik-like simplicity, the simplest possible system that will actually fly? What will fit in a single rocket, a single launch solution? And what can we use that's commercial off-the-shelf technology, what I refer to as purchase orderable technology? What can we actually build? And we were going around the table, and people throwing out ideas, and one guy's like, Lunar elevator. And everybody's like, bullshit. And we're not friendly about this. It's a hostile bullshit. And guy takes out his pen, and he starts scribbling on the tablecloth. I wish to God I still had that tablecloth, because the guy was absolutely right. We can build a lunar elevator with current technology with a single launch and keep it very, very simple. And that's really where this lunar space elevator idea came from. Jerome Pearson, the guy I mentioned earlier, he invented the lunar elevator 2 years before I was born. His system was monolithic. It was absolutely unbuildable. It would have taken 500 Saturn-sized rockets to build this thing. Not going to happen. It's an interesting paper display. What our guys at the table came up with is how to actually build it now. And that led to the Kickstarter, and that led to me standing here. So what is a lunar elevator? All right, let's put away the Earth system. I want to assure you that we are going to build the Earth system, but we can't yet. So what is a lunar system? The mechanics are a little bit different. Ignore what you think you know about the Earth system, because it's not the same. On the one side, you've got the Earth, and it's pretty small. We're talking about, nope, that's not what I wanted. I don't have a power laser pointer. So on this side's the Earth. This dot, see where it says the moon? Follow it down to where the red line intersects. That dot is true to scale. Okay? That's a long ways away, 385,000 kilometers, 260,000 miles. But that's to scale. So here's what you're going to do. You've got the Earth on one side, you've got the moon on the other, you've got the Lagrange point, not in the middle, it's actually way close to the Earth. The Lagrange point is where the balance from the gravity from the moon balances against the gravity from the Earth, and you have a null gravity environment, almost null. So what you're going to do is you're going to launch from the Earth with a normal standard rocket. There's 14 nations and more than 30 rockets capable of doing what I'm about to describe. You launch from Earth, get to the Lagrange point, you drop a spike or a ribbon down to the lunar surface, dig in, hold there, hopefully it works, a lot depends on that spike, and then pull that string back towards the Earth, way back towards the Earth, not touching, but far enough, that's what that red line is, far enough so that the Earth's mass holds that counterweight tight, the whole string stays tight, and now you've built a ladder you can climb back and forth to the moon on. Make sense? Simple, right? Yeah. No. Okay. We'll get to that more in a minute. So here's what we're going to do. I think that the Lagrange point, what I refer to as the picogravity lab, is the most valuable real estate in the entire solar system. By the way, we make about $60 billion a year from satellites orbiting at geosynchronous orbit. That is currently the most valuable real estate in the solar system. But there's 1,800 slots for geosync sats. There's only one spot like this in the entire solar system. I think that's a good market. I was a real estate guy, remember? All right, so this is what we're going to do. We're going to wind up building this thing. The key to the elevator on Earth is to get out of the gravity well. The key to the elevator on the moon is to actually sink safely and gently down to the gravity well. We've gone to Mars a whole lot lately because it's a lot easier. There's a minor atmosphere. We can grab onto that atmosphere, slow ourselves down, and descend. Soft landing on the moon is extraordinarily hard. You need a Saturn-class rocket to land softly on the moon. And funny, we don't happen to have a Saturn-class rocket, and we haven't for nearly 35, 40 years. So we're not going to the moon because we simply can't. I'm personally offended by that. But I believe that this station, this picogravity lab, is going to be the starting point that moves humanity from here to the moon, from here to Mars, and eventually from here to the stars. And I'm pretty sure folks like you are interested in that. So, could I start my video, please?
11, 10.
That would not be it. Nope. Cool.
14, 13.
All right, so this isn't our simulation because, we're a PowerPoint company now. Sorry, but we are. There are 5 U.S. rockets that this is modeled after. Atlas, Delta, this is a ATK Liberty rocket, and 2 on the drawing board are NASA's Space Launch System and the Dragon Heavy. We get out to low Earth orbit. We eject the front pod. What we have here is a solar electric propulsion engine. We're going to take about 3 months, maybe 4, maybe 5. There's no hurry. 3 or 4 or 5 months to get out to the Lagrange point. And we're doing this, we're taking as much mass as we can. The artist got rid of the countermass, the rocket. We're going to hang on to that. We're going to take as much mass as we can to the Lagrange point. We're going to sink our spike into the lunar surface. The drills are going the wrong way. We hang on to the lunar surface. If we get this wrong, this is an $800 million mistake.
Accessing data.
That could be a problem.
Accessing.
But if we get it right, developing a space station is actually pretty straightforward. Y'all know about Bigelow Aerospace? Look up Bigelow Aerospace. Pretty cool. All of these modules are modeled after the BA330 real live technology that's in development. Some of this is already in space, and Boeing and NASA just committed to launching a system that will go to the International Space Station just a few weeks ago. By the way, Boeing yesterday signed non-disclosure agreements with our company that I can't talk about. Pretty happy about that. Once we have this system, now we have regular transport back and forth to the lunar surface. I'm pretty interested in rare earth metals. There's a lot of them down there. Just look at the moon. Every circular hole is a meteor impact. At the center of that meteor is a whole bunch of valuable rocks. I think that's kind of the first thing that we're going to tackle. But I don't think we're going to stop there. I think what we're going to do is start developing a research station. Hi. I think we'll start developing a research station, but I don't think that the moon is the first important target. I think the Lagrange point station is actually the first important target. What makes a Lagrange point station great is it's easy access from the Earth and a whole bunch of raw materials on the other side. So just ferrying material back and forth to the moon becomes really valuable. You can pound that into solar panels, create enormous solar panels robotically, ship those solar panels not back to Earth, there's no point in landing them back here on Earth, but ship them back to the geosynchronous points around the Earth. You can make enormous solar panels that can provide clean, green, limitless energy to everyone all the time. So I think going to space is the first best way of solving any resource shortages, resource wars that I think we're about to have. So that's the basic system. Let me talk a little bit more about Kickstarter, and then we're going to throw it out into questions. So Kickstarter was kind of amazing for us. We were absolutely unprepared. And when I mean we, it was me last August. It was kind of crazy. I don't know if you all have ever backed or launched a Kickstarter campaign. It is madness. It's chaos incarnate, especially if you get more than 500 media mentions around the world, multiple languages, millions and millions of impressions. So this was kind of a crazy thing. And a lot has happened since then. We'll talk about that in a second. But let me tell you about Helmar Petersen. So I didn't know who this guy was. I didn't know what Eve was. Sorry, but I didn't. Some of our fans saw that he had backed us And he's like, you should go talk to that guy. I'm like, all right. Why? I mean, really, why? Why should I talk to a video game guy? Great, he's a CEO. Great, wait, 500,000 users? 500,000 users that are looking at a future in space? 500,000 geeks like me that think the world could be a better place? 500,000 people that think mining an asteroid should not just be something in science fiction books? Oh, hell yes, I want to talk to this guy. I was actually invited out to an event in Vienna, and spur of the moment, I'm like, hey, I'm in Vienna. I'm in your neck of the woods, right? Because I live in Seattle. Like, Iceland is not convenient from Seattle. So I'm like, hey, I'm here. You want to chat? And he's like, sure. Nothing else. It was like a 2-sentence, sure, I'll be there just in time. So I literally know nothing about this guy. I try to Google him. Surprisingly, not a huge amount like on him as a human being. So I still don't really know what this is all about. I download the game. I can't play it. I'm completely baffled. But okay, all right. First download didn't work. All right, not going to worry about it. Come out to the meeting. He had just gotten off an airplane from Shanghai, completely jet lagged, and kind of surly. It's him and I don't know if you know Ragnar, Raggy, great guys. We're in the meeting in his office, and I'm kind of overwhelmed, but okay, it's kind of cool. And it's not really going very well. Like, it's just not. Like, hey, here's a game, it's cool. Hey, here's a space elevator, it's cool. So what? Right? It wasn't a particularly good meeting, and we could tell it wasn't a very good meeting. And in full credit to this guy, he acknowledged it wasn't a particularly good meeting, and he's like, come back tomorrow. Well, hell, I mean, at this point, I'm thousands of miles from home. I've spent a lot of money to get here. Yeah, I'll extend just a little bit and stick around. The next day, he's got about 6, 7, 8 of his guys around his conference table. And, by the way, CCP headquarters is pretty cool. He is pounding on the conference table. I mean, not like a little bit, like he's a freaking Viking. He's pounding on the conference table. You can imagine this guy with a battle axe. He is enraged because that week, Apple had just released the new iPhone. They spent $1 billion to make it a centimeter bigger. He's like, what the fuck? Are you kidding me? He is going off. It was pretty fun. At that point, I kind of just like took a step back and just let him go, because now we're talking about civilization shifting technologies. We're talking about a community that actually has the wherewithal to make this happen. I asked you guys to raise your hands. How many of you guys were in those fields? How many of you guys were in these different communities? A lot of you know the kinds of technologies we need to build this thing. So what if we harnessed you? Now, I'm not going to pretend I know how to do that, but I am going to ask you guys to actively get involved with this thing. There's, 1,500 of you guys walking around Reykjavik, but you're only 0.02% of the potential of the Eve community. All of you guys that raised your hands, 0.02% of the Eve potential. So what could happen if we tried to make Eve real? I don't know, but I really want to find out. So what did we do with our Kickstarter? September, October, November, it was chaos. We're building alliances. Y'all know all about building alliances. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. We're trying to build alliances with the military. The Naval Research Lab in Monterey, California is going to use our high-altitude balloon systems for weather monitoring. We came out here to Reykjavik. We went to Puerto Rico. We're setting up an academic lab in Puerto Rico. Um, This spring, we're doing the same thing. We're meeting people, we're trying to find money because, let's face it, $110,000 doesn't go very far. Despite all of our interest, despite all of my staff will attest, I'm really a miser. We don't have that much money, and to do the things we want to do, that's a necessary component. So we're trying to build relationships, trying to build alliances. What we're doing with the summer is our actual Kickstarter experiments. We are climbing 2 kilometers, 6,500 feet. That'll be a world record. We're going to climb 2 miles, 11,000 feet, another world record. And our goal is to be higher than Mount McKinley. That's the largest object in North America. That's 7 kilometers. So that's what the summer looks like. And then the rest of the year, it's all about feasibility and design and development. And we better find some cash by then or we're out. And that would be the 3rd time we crashed. So but I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think that's going to happen. So then 2014, more research and development. This goes back to the stuff we already talked about, the stuff you guys are already good at. We refined the study. So this is 2014, 2015 is $15 million, which if it's out of my checkbook, I can't do it. Not this time. But $15 million to buy down risk of an $800 million project is actually quite doable. Infrastructure projects happen all the time. I live in Seattle. We have $5 billion infrastructure projects in my own town. So an $800 million system actually is quite doable if you get the risk right, if you understand the risk. And along the way, we're going to have all sorts of spin-offs, commercially viable, commercially valuable, down here on Earth spin-offs that make money. We already have 2 in development. Then it gets exciting. 2016, 17, 18, bend metal. Order engines, order rockets, put down deposits, hire a team, make this thing real. And I want to do it before Eve's 2nd decade. Easy, right? All right, so we need a lot of people. We have about 80 PhDs working in the background on our board of advisors. We could always use more. We have about 120, 130, 140. It's a little hard to track because I haven't paid attention to it lately. We have about 130 folks with master's degrees, again, with specific specialties in certain areas, the areas I mentioned earlier. We can always use more. We have a pretty active community. We could always use more. CCP Games gave us 6,000 60-day trial codes to give to our community. That's pretty cool. By the way, add that up, it's almost a millennia of time. It's 926 years of time. It's 31 billion seconds of server time. That's how much they think what we're doing is pretty interesting. And that's what we're trying to do, is go out and build our community and bring it into this community. If you want access to that, sign up for our newsletter. It's on our page. If you want a newsletter, we want you to read our newsletter. If you want the Eve trials, we want you to have those too. We're trying to connect this. Why? Why does this matter? You've got a ground combat system called Dust. You've got an interstellar economy and combat system called Eve. You tie them together with a space elevator. I was talking to their chief economist. Planets that will have space elevators will make more money than planets that do not have space elevators. That's a fundamental truism of our Earth and our game. Planets with elevators make more money, the end. I was talking to Andy. We were talking about Stargates, and we're going to be able to build Stargates. By the way, oh, I have to back up. I actually did figure out how to play the game. I started playing about 3 months ago. I suck, but I like it. It's embarrassing how many times I've died, but it's okay. It's still good. I spend a lot of time on the phone, and I can mine while I'm on the phone. I'm doing what I can. I'm doing what I can. Oh yeah, of course, of course. No, I'm actually a big chicken. I mostly stay in high security areas, and I do a lot of the agent missions because I can. So we've got this system. We're going to tie 2 major games together with elevators. Andy's talking about building Stargates. Pretty cool. You're also going to be able to build space elevators. Blow them up. Deny your enemies the space elevator. It is a significant tactical advantage. Deny them that. Blow the damn thing up. If you're in a safe environment, build them everywhere. All of your moons, all of your planets, build them. But don't let the other guys have them. Carnage. So Eve is writing the official canon. You guys, there's lots of canon out there. I haven't been involved with the game long enough to really know the storyline. They haven't released the space elevator canon, but it is coming. I haven't seen it. I don't know what it is. I'm as excited about it as you are. So yeah, this is really happening. We are going to make Eve real. I'm going to do my part in the real world, and I need you guys to do your part in the game. I think that's pretty much it. So I would like questions, and I'm going to say very clearly that we don't even have all the questions yet, let alone have all the answers. Okay? We've only been at this little over a year. Most of us did our work drunk in a margarita bar. So we don't have all the questions. And in fact, one of the things I'd like you to do if you sign up for our newsletter, at the bottom of that form is ask a question. We may or may not already have that question. We may or not have even thought about that question. Ask a question when you sign up for the newsletter. But now, ask me questions. Thanks. Can I have the lights? Thanks.
Cable. I mean, oh, perfect, thank you.
Thank you.
I mean, micrometeorites or ruptures in the cable. If you don't repair it quick, you're losing tension, you lose the anti-elevator.
Right, absolutely. What do we do about tension and tears in the elevator? And we've got 2 elevators now, so I've got 2 different answers. The Earth system, 15 feet wide, paper thin, we're designing to withstand an awful lot of hits. There's a bunch of orbital debris. There's a bunch of satellites. We have to be able to withstand stuff that hits us that's about this big. And like any bridge, like the Golden Gate Bridge, they never stop painting the Golden Gate Bridge. It's an ongoing repair process. We will have the same thing. The US Air Force tracks about 20,000 objects this big and bigger. We actually know where those objects are, and we actually have to move the elevator to dodge this stuff. So we're on a ship. We move the ship, which moves the ribbon, sends an artificial pulse up through the ribbon, and we dodge it. We dodge everything that we can. If we get hit by something the size of your, a a stamp or your fingernail or something, we can just take the hit. And then we fix it. Cool?
Okay, thank you.
All right. Sounds easy, right?
Hey, my question is not about space elevator or something, but more about EVE Online. I'm from Gunswarm, maybe. And I would like to know your in-game name, because we are recruiting
See.
for a small fee and also renting space. Connect me.
I met the Matani yesterday. So I was not sure whether I should put my in-game name on my slides or not. What do you think? Yes, no? No.
Yes.
I have courage, and I have a lot of optimism. I know it's probably not a great idea. It's Rourke Itonula. Rourke Itonula.
Okay.
Yeah, no. Yeah. It's I don't know what. Yesterday we saw that the largest bounty was $20 billion, right? Like, yeah, sorry, see? New. So, yeah, I mean, I actually would love to work with you guys. I don't know that I trust you guys. I met the Matani yesterday. And all I can say is the guy is very confident, he's very charming, and I'm pretty sure they said that about the first snake in the first Eden. But I liked him, so.
We're all charming. Thanks.
Sure, yeah.
Right, I'm Japopo, Gunsfarm 2. So when you make the payment to join you, that's my account you have to pay to. I have questions about the space elevators because you didn't give much specifics, especially how is it going to work, or how are you going to deploy it.
Yep.
I'm especially interested in how heavy that will be and how big that will be, because you said it's a cable that will be like 100,000 kilometers long.
Right.
So I assume that it will take a lot of room. And the launcher you showed, well, first of all, it looks very small, and then it was scrapped. So what kind of facilities are you going to use?
Okay, I'm going to show a video. Excuse me, could I get that space elevator movie, please? So this video they're about to show is the original 2003 video.
Right.
It looks it. Okay, it's old, it's sketchy, there's lots of stuff wrong with it. I continue to show it because this is where the breakthrough stuff started happening. And I'm personally kind of nostalgically proud of this. But I'll explain how we build it and some of the details behind it in a second, okay? All right, so let's get that rolling, please. All right, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna launch 4 basic spacecraft to low Earth orbit. 2 of them have great big spools of thread. They'll come back online in a second, or in screen in a second. You've got a great big, this yellow is a rocket engine. You're bringing another rocket engine up. And they're taking a solar panel, instead of pointing it up towards the sun like we normally do, we actually point it down to the ground. Once everything is assembled, we actually beam, the red is beaming energy up to ourselves from the ground. Whether it's laser, whether it's microwave, we don't know yet. We push this system from low Earth orbit out through geosynchronous and unravel the string all the way out the full length, 100,000 kilometers. This thread at the beginning is only 4, maybe 6 centimeters wide. It's super fragile. It's going to break right away. What we have to do is we drop the string, and we refer to it as a ribbon usually. We drop the ribbon down to the Earth, directly south of San Diego, out to the equator, directly west of Quito, Ecuador. There's literally nothing out there. There's irradiated French atoll. So that's out there. That's about 700 miles away. The Galapagos Islands are 1,800 miles out. We're going to land this thing on a ship. Now, these ships are wrong. It's actually going to be kind of 2 or 3 cruise ship style ships sitting side by side with a platform on top. That ship, we refer to it as the LiftPort. Our company is LiftPort Group, so that's the LiftPort. Okay? The LiftPort is the starting point. With that first ribbon that's very fragile, we then send up new robots bringing new ribbons side by side. So this is the same thing that they used to build bridges with. They take a bow and arrow, shoot a string across the canyon, pull another string, another string, another string, and eventually you build this thing up. This yellow is new ribbon added to the original gray. These images are not as pretty as CCP games. But this illustrates the basic concepts that even 10 years later we stand by. This is how we build it. And once we've built it up to the size I was talking about, then it becomes a true railway to space. We anticipate 100 tons of cargo every week. To put that in perspective, the best the space shuttle ever did, and I use the space shuttle because I'm an American, I know that system better. The best the space shuttle ever did was launch 7 times in 1 year. And the best their cargo capacity was between 50 and 60 tons. So giving them the absolute best of the best benefit of the doubt, they have 400-ish tons. We're going to do that in a month. And that's the most generous version of what NASA did. And to put in price comparison, the space shuttle, to launch the space shuttle, forget price per pound, to launch a space shuttle was a $500 million effort every time they did it. We think we can go maybe $400 a pound, maybe, something in that range. So instead of $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 per pound, we can probably go to 400. And that's with the first elevator. What's really awesome about the elevator in the first place is once you build the first one, you bring all the parts up to build the second one, and you split them apart. And then you do that again, and you have 4, and then you have 8, and then you have a global system. So it's not really fair to compare it to rockets, not truly. There will always be rockets, but the rockets will have a vastly different purpose. We'll actually be moving cargo. It's the same as having a sports car versus a railroad. Did that kind of answer your question?
I was more actually asking how heavy will that be, and would it actually be possible to bring that to the moon? And especially that part when you pull up strings, you cannot do that on the moon either.
No. It's a completely different system, the Earth system versus the moon. We can't build the Earth system yet because we don't have the carbon nanotubes. The moon system is pretty different. We're going to start with a thread about the thickness of dental floss. That sounds ridiculous. 250,000 kilometers of dental floss. I said single launch solution, right? Everything has to wind within the rocket fairing. So the lunar system starts out very small, maybe 40, maybe 60 kilos. Not very big. But then again, you add another string, another string, another string. Within about 3 or 4 years, you build it up to a human-rated system. What we'd like to do, I'm going to kind of figure I did my job when we get to 3 people every 3 weeks. Comparing again to the space shuttle, you can launch a Falcon Heavy for $50 million, so that's 1/10 the price of the space shuttle. You can get 3 people every 3 weeks, so that's about 39 people a year. That's pretty damn good. And by the way, it's 1,000 times further than the space station. So that's kind of what we're trying to do. Make sense?
Yeah, a little bit.
I mean, I'm simplifying, okay? But I'm happy to share my math with you. Okay.
That would be nice. Maybe after the presentation, if you have to.
Okay, sure. Yeah, sure. Sure. That's it? That's it? Who here backed my Kickstarter campaign? Anybody? All right. I was picked last in every sport. See? All right. Give that to that guy. No, it goes back to that guy. This is LC. Lunar Space Elevator Infrastructure is hard to say if you just have to say it 100 times in a day. So Lunar Space Elevator became LC, and LC should not be a cow because that's kind of stupid. We chose a giraffe because it is the creature in nature that strives the highest. So, yeah, you were first. Thank you very much.